Breaking news! The Miami Dolphins have made several quiet moves that could shake up the entire roster heading into Week 1. And believe me, what's happening behind closed doors is much more intense than the front office would have you believe. We're talking about sudden signings, questionable reserves, and a front office that continues to walk a fine line between strategy and pure confusion. And yes, Chris Grier is at the center of it all. He should have left in 2022, but somehow, he's still in charge. But before I go any further, like this if you've been a Dolphins fan long enough to remember when Dan Marino was still throwing darts. And if you're as teal and orange and white as I am, leave a comment right now saying, "Go Dolphins! We can make it to the Super Bowl." Because what I'm about to say might change the way you view this entire Dolphins operation heading into the new season. So here's what's going down. Let's jump into the fire. The Miami Dolphins have made a flurry of moves recently that both excite and confuse. First, let's talk about that practice squad. Some familiar names are back, and there are some intriguing new additions. Riley Patterson is one that stands out. He's set to be elevated as our kicker while Jason Sanders is out. He's got a respectable 85% field goal rate in his career, with nearly perfect accuracy inside 40 yards. But here's the real concern. Only 44% from 50-plus yards. Let's hope we're not relying on deep kicks early in the season. We can't afford to play games that close. Then there's the return of Jeff Wilson, a move that adds depth and experience to the backfield, and honestly, it makes sense. Wilson knows the system, and while he's not flashy, he's dependable. Add in the signing of tight end Greg Dulcich, who led the preseason with 3 touchdowns, and now we're talking about serious potential. He's athletic, he's got great hands, and he could finally give us a real red zone threat at the tight end position, something we've been desperately lacking. But that's not all. The Dolphins also made a low-key but intriguing waiver claim, grabbing cornerback Juju Brents from the Indianapolis Colts. Let's be real, he's got upside, and after missing out on Jalen Armour-Davis, who ended up with the Titans, Brents might be a solid consolation prize. Still, why did we only manage to get one claim if, as Chris Grier said, the team was planning to be aggressive on waivers? Grier continues to talk like he's executing some grand plan, but the results are always just average. Let's not sugarcoat this. Chris Grier is under fire. He told the media that Stephen Ross never gave him a directive to spend less in free agency. But come on, do you really believe that? That's like your boss telling you behind closed doors to clean up your act and then expecting you to report that publicly. Grier claims this offseason is about resetting and getting younger, yet we've seen the Dolphins bring in veterans like Matthew Judon, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Rasul Douglas, Mike Hilton, and James Daniels. That's not a youth movement. That's a contradiction. And what about Cam Smith? Grier says he had his best 2 weeks, then quietly stashes him on the reserve/non-football illness list. No explanation. Just like Blake Ferguson last year, Smith might be gone without a trace. It's frustrating, and it smells like another case of mismanagement. Meanwhile, on the field, things are heating up. More than 20 players stayed after practice to put in extra work, a clear sign that Mike McDaniel has these guys locked in. According to linebacker Jordan Brooks, this has been the hardest training camp of his career, all thanks to how McDaniel structured it. That's the kind of mentality we need. That's leadership. And it's worth noting, Brooks and Aaron Brewer were 2 names that Grier said really stood out. So while I'm not here to praise Grier, at least some of the guys they've brought in are showing promise. Still, the inconsistencies in Grier's strategy are glaring. He says this team is getting younger and more financially responsible, yet they're adding veterans whose contracts aren't exactly cheap. The front office keeps talking about a reset, but what's actually happening doesn't match that narrative at all. And that's what's driving fans crazy. Grier was also asked point blank whether this team needs to win a playoff game for the season to be considered a success. His answer? Predictably vague. The goal is to win playoff games, he said. No commitment, no clear benchmark, just the usual political non-answer. And again, this is exactly why fans have had enough. If we limp to another 8 to 9 season, there's no way Grier should keep his job. But given how things have played out in the past, would anyone really be surprised if he's still calling the shots next year? Let's also talk about the situation with Tyreek Hill. Despite his injury, he's been at practice every day, working hard, being a leader, and staying engaged with the team. That's the kind of commitment we need from our stars. There's no doubt Hill is all in for this season, and it shows. Add that to the return of Darren Waller to individual drills and Austin Jackson being back at practice, and things are finally starting to take shape, at least on the field. But none of it will matter if the front office can't get out of its own way. All right, let's keep this rolling. When you look deeper into this front office strategy, or lack thereof, the contradictions don't just end with free agent signings or waiver moves. Greer talks about needing to reset fast and being financially responsible, claiming they want to get younger, more sustainable. Yet, they make moves like bringing back Kendall Lamb and stash Cam Smith, a second-rounder from just last year, on the reserve/non-football illness list without any transparency. That's not resetting. That's rerouting with no GPS. And here's what's even more frustrating. The Dolphins had one claim from the waiver wire, Juju Brents. While he might be a solid addition, how can Greer say the team is going to be aggressive and then only land a single player? It's just more smoke and mirrors from a GM who's been dodging accountability for years. And don't forget, some of the best available corners went elsewhere simply because Miami wasn't in position to make the moves, despite saying they would. This isn't about being a hater. This is about wanting results. The Dolphins fan base has been loyal through decades of disappointment, and now with real talent on this roster, they deserve a front office that matches that intensity. Mike McDaniel has done a solid job creating a culture of accountability and competition. Just ask Jordan Brooks, who said this training camp has been the toughest of his career. That's what winning organizations do. But if your GM is running in circles while the coaching staff is building momentum, you've got a car with the handbrake still on. The reality is, this team is stacked with potential. Tyreek Hill is locked in. Tua Tagovailoa has weapons. Waller is on the verge of returning. The running back room with Hayne and Ollie Gordon looks dangerous, and with Jeff Wilson as the insurance policy, there's balance. On defense, guys like RUL Douglas are already taking leadership roles, and the rookies like Jason Marshall are getting real reps. The core is there. But once again, it's the decision-making at the top that could derail the entire thing. Even Chris Greer himself admitted there's no communication with Christian Wilkins. We're open to it, he said. Open to what? Wilkins was one of the most respected guys in that locker room. And instead of working to bring him back or keeping the relationship alive, they've let it go completely stale. How do you let a leader like Wilkins just walk away with no plan or comment? It's exactly the type of mismanagement that makes fans lose faith. And now let's talk about the rookies. Greer did mention that the rookie class is doing really well, and players like Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips are showing up. He praised their progress, noting that there will be growing pains, but they're not backing down. That's promising. But again, talent development is great, as long as you actually give them a path to the field. If you're stashing guys like Cam Smith while signing older vets, where's the youth movement you keep preaching about? And how about that quote from Jordan Brooks? He said this has been the most intense, structured training camp he's ever experienced, and it's a direct result of McDaniel's leadership. That tells you right there that the culture inside the locker room is shifting. These guys are locked in, intentional, and hungry. The work ethic is there. The coaching is there. The leadership on the field is there. The only thing missing? Clarity and decisiveness from the front office. Look, we're entering a make-or-break season. If the Dolphins don't at least win a playoff game this year, heads need to roll. And if Chris Greer somehow survives another year of falling short, fans are going to explode. Dolphins Nation has waited long enough. You can't keep selling potential while failing to make bold, consistent decisions. Either this team is built to win now, or it's not. The fans can see through the smoke, and they're tired of being patient. This upcoming season, with the talent we have, the changes we've made, the grit we've seen in camp, it should not end in disappointment. But with Greer still at the helm, that uncertainty is always lurking. There's no denying the impact Mike McDaniel is having on this roster. There's no questioning the heart guys like Tyreek, Brooks, and Waller are showing. But the pressure now shifts to the top, and the clock is ticking. So here's what I want to know from you. Are the Dolphins finally on the path to something great? Or are we going to be sitting here in January having the same conversation all over again? If you made it this far, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the next video coming up right here on screen.